styles, everyday finds, one place. Welcome to Shack Shop, your go-to online store for women's fashion and must-have essentials. From trendy outfits to lifestyle items you didn't know you needed, it's all here. Easy shopping, great prices, new arrivals dropping often. Shop smarter. Shop Shack Shop. Visit us online today.
A new battlefront in Virginia's House of Delegates has ignited one of the most heated political disputes in the Commonwealth in years. Democratic lawmakers are seeking to establish a special task force charged with investigating the Virginia Military Institute, VMI, a move that could ultimately determine whether the nation's oldest state-supported military college continues to receive public funding. The proposal comes amid a broader effort by Virginia Democrats to revive diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) initiatives, following the rollback of such policies nationwide after President Donald Trump's 2024 election victory. Critics argue the resolution is less about accountability and more about ideology, while supporters maintain it is a necessary review of an institution with a complicated past. Either way, VMI now finds itself at the center of a political and cultural storm. What the resolution would do. The Democratic-backed resolution does not immediately strip funding from VMI. Instead, it calls for the creation of a legislative task force empowered to review VMI's governance and institutional culture, examine past and current policies related to diversity and inclusion, assess whether VMI complies with state expectations for publicly funded institutions, recommend whether future state funding should continue, be conditioned, or withdrawn. Republicans, however, argue that placing funding on the table at all introduces existential risk to an institution whose mission depends heavily on public support. Republican lawmakers sound the alarm. Among the most vocal critics is Republican Congressman Rob Wittman of Virginia, who serves on the House Armed Services Committee. Wittman argues the proposal strikes at the heart of VMI's identity and purpose. According to Wittman, the Institute has already addressed concerns raised in previous years and complied with directives issued by the General Assembly. Reopening the issue, he says, undermines not only VMI, but the Commonwealth's long-standing commitment to military education. He warned that politicizing VMI threatens to damage Virginia's reputation, weaken military leadership pipelines, and alienate alumni who have served the nation in both uniformed and civilian roles. A rivalry-turned defense. Wittman's defense of VMI carries additional weight given his background. A graduate of Virginia Tech and former member of its Corps of Cadets, he comes from a school with a historical rivalry with VMI. Even so, he described that rivalry as respectful and emphasized that both institutions share a commitment to discipline, leadership, and service. That shared military tradition, he argues, is exactly what is now at risk. VMI's place in American history. Founded in 1839, the Virginia Military Institute predates the Civil War and holds the distinction of being the oldest public senior military college in the United States. Its alumni roster includes military commanders, diplomats, engineers, educators, and business leaders who have shaped American history. Among its most well-known graduates are General George C. Marshall, architect of the Marshall Plan; Mike Waltz, current U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations; General John Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Supporters argue that few institutions can match VMI's legacy of service and leadership development. National Republicans join the fight. Concerns about VMI's future have extended beyond Virginia's borders. Congressman Pat Fallon of Texas, also a member of the House Armed Services Committee, has publicly criticized the resolution and linked it directly to Virginia's new Democratic leadership. Fallon argues that the renewed scrutiny of VMI is not about improving military readiness or education, but about reshaping institutions to fit a progressive ideological framework. Drawing on his own military experience, Fallon described VMI as a leadership factory that has consistently produced individuals who serve at the highest levels of government and defense. Governor Abigail Spanberger under scrutiny. At the center of the controversy is Democratic Governor Abigail Spanberger, who took office only weeks ago. Republicans accuse her administration of rapidly pivoting away from the centrist image she projected during her campaign. One of Spanberger's early decisions was to appoint former Governor Ralph Northam to VMI's Board of Visitors, the body responsible for overseeing the institution. That appointment has proven especially contentious. The Northam connection. Northam, who served as governor during the height of nationwide DEI expansion, ordered a state-sanctioned investigation into VMI in 2021. That review focused on allegations of racism and sexism within the institute. While the investigation resulted in reforms and policy changes, critics argue that reopening the issue now suggests political motivation rather than institutional necessity. Republicans have sharply criticized Northam's appointment, citing past controversies and questioning whether his presence signals a return to aggressive DEI enforcement. DEI, the broader political context. The VMI debate cannot be separated from the national conversation surrounding DEI. During President Joe Biden's administration, DEI programs expanded rapidly across universities, corporations, and government agencies. Following Trump's return to the White House in 2024, many federal and state-level DEI mandates were rolled back or rescinded, particularly in conservative-leaning states.
Virginia Democrats now appear intent on reversing that trend within the Commonwealth, setting up a direct confrontation with Republicans who argue that DEI initiatives undermine merit-based institutions, especially military ones. Law enforcement and immigration add fuel. Spanberger's critics point to other early actions as evidence of a leftward shift. One executive order ended mandatory cooperation between Virginia law enforcement agencies and immigration and customs agencies, reversing a policy implemented under former Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin. That decision drew sharp criticism from conservatives, who argue it weakens public safety and mirrors policies seen in more progressive states. Cultural backlash goes viral. The controversy has spilled onto social media, where conservative commentators and political figures have accused Democrats of misleading voters about Spanberger's ideological leanings. Meghan McCain, daughter of the late Senator John McCain, posted a widely circulated message criticizing Spanberger and warning that Virginia was being rapidly transformed by progressive governance. Such comments reflect a broader sense among conservatives that institutional change is being driven faster than voters are allowed to expect. Could VMI actually lose funding? While no immediate funding cut has been enacted, lawmakers warn that even the possibility creates instability. VMI relies on state support to maintain facilities, staff, and its rigorous military training programs. Opponents argue that threatening funding could discourage future cadets, damage alumni fundraising, weaken long-term planning, weaken Virginia's military education infrastructure. Supporters of the resolution counter that public funding should come with accountability and that oversight does not equal punishment.
Democrats remained largely silent. As of publication, Governor Spanberger has not publicly responded to the criticism surrounding the resolution or her appointment of Northam. Requests for comment have reportedly gone unanswered. Democratic lawmakers backing the measure argue privately that transparency and accountability are being mischaracterized as ideological warfare. A clash of visions. At its core, the VMI controversy reflects two competing visions for public institutions. One side sees military colleges as tradition-bound institutions that must be protected from political interference. The other views them as public entities that should evolve alongside social expectations and remain subject to rigorous oversight. Which vision prevails may determine not only VMI's future, but how far Virginia is willing to go in revisiting its approach to DEI, education, and military culture. What happens next? The resolution must still move through the legislative process before any task force is officially created. Even then, recommendations would not automatically become law. Still, the debate has already reshaped Virginia's political landscape, turning VMI into a symbol of a much larger national struggle over identity, governance, and the role of tradition in modern America.